4 Sundays, if you've been here, I've extended an invitation. And the invitation reads as follows. You are cordially invited to let 2019 be the year that you fully awaken. And what you're awakening to is the life of beauty, the life of grace, the life of the divine self that is the truth of who you are, because it is within each and every one of us. And so today is what I really want us to deepen into, that knowledge that we are not just these human shells walking around, that there is a divinity that is the truth of our being, that is eternal, and that we always have within us, always. And then I've asked, what would 2019 look like if you RSVP'd yes? Yes, to be fully awake to the life that you now have, because we got to start somewhere, and there's only one place to start, the present. Fully awake and present to those who are in every moment, those people, and fully awake and present to what brings you joy here and now. Sometimes we don't pay attention to those joyful moments in life and give great appreciation for them. That's how we get more of that joy. And fully awake and aware to the life that you are creating, because you are creating through every thought you think. You are creating through every word you speak. You are creating through every emotion that you feel. That is how we are creative beings. And what if you were fully awake to the grace of divinity that is flowing through us at all times? Even in the middle of, I talked about last week, the wake. You know, that crazy chaos that it can look like if you say you're water skiing, which I don't do. I told that last week. I don't even swim, but I like boats. And a water skier creates those wakes on either side, but in the middle there's a calm. So I'm inviting us to stay and awaken to the calm, even though we are going through the wake of life. And many of you are going to get that chance today to RSVP to your presence of being an awakened being. But before we do that, there's a couple of thoughts that I really want to share with you. I want to take you back to the first Sunday in January. This has been the whole month of awakening. It's January, why not? Good time to start. It's always a good time to start, and we can even start today. When we talked about the 4 stages of spiritual evolution, and what are they? Does anyone remember when I spoke of that?
Yes.
Thank you. Even if one person remembers, that's great. So the first stage is why me, which is the mortal stage or victim consciousness. Why does this always happen to me? Whenever you hear yourself saying that, let it get your attention, because nothing happens to us. Okay, second stage is by me, and that's the metaphysical or the metaphysician stage. It's happening by you, by will. We do it. It's good. That's good. By me, or the next stage, the third stage, is through me, and that would be the mystical stage, where spirit and all of life occurs through me. It is happening through me. We're taking ownership of our lives. And then the fourth stage is we might get a glimpse of this once in a while. It's as me. As me, which is the master stage of our evolution. And today I want to explore the as me, or the master part of those 4 stages, because this is how we can create the lives that we want to live. And this teaching that we do here, the spiritual teaching, is so powerful because it empowers people through different gifts, through hearing different concepts, because you never know when one is going to strike you in that moment, and you can shift your entire life. I know I've done it, and I know many of you here have done it. Just through that knowing that I get to create my life. It doesn't happen to me. It looks that way, but it's not the truth. So moving into the as me, most of us will think, well, I'm not that evolved. I'm not a mystic. That doesn't happen as me. But I'm saying right here, right now, is a bad time that it does. Why not? Why not as me? We have everything within us that we need, all the tools, all the divinity. We have God within us. We are God. We are all God, because we're all expressions of the oneness of life itself. And isn't it a bad time that we lived from that conscious space? And really to be cognizant of what is going on in our lives and how we can respond in ways that serve us, not always being the victim. Once we come out of that victim consciousness, that awareness right there is the most powerful thing that we could ever do. Because there is a life of fullness waiting for us to just recognize it. And this is the truth. This is the truth. And those thoughts, though, those thoughts of things happening to me contribute to our feeling separate. Separate from the allness of divinity, of God, of infinite power, whatever we want to call the higher power, leads to separation, and that leads to fear. And so when we can really get to that place through meditation, through prayer, through what we're going to do today, visioning, through many different tools, we can feel the connectiveness. And we're not alone, we're never alone. That's the beauty of it, the absolute beauty of it. And there is a book that tells you all about that. And for most of you here, you're familiar with that book. Is the Science of Mind book by Dr. Ernest Holmes. And he writes this in the book: there is that within every individual which partakes of the nature of the universal wholeness and is God. That is the meaning of the word Emmanuel, the meaning of the word Christ. There is that within us which partakes of the nature of the divine being. And since it partakes of the nature of the divine being, we are divine. You, and you, and you, and me. We're all divine beings. Nobody told us that. They forgot to tell us that when they were raising us. If you were raised by, wonderful conscious parents, you might have been told that. But most of us were not told that. We were told the opposite of that. So now it's the time to awaken to the truth of our being. And in his book, The Book of Awakening by Mark Naples, he writes this: perhaps being awake is paying attention to the ongoing moment of life that we so often take for granted. That moment, like conception, like a seed cracking open, that is happening even as you read this. Yet, as the headlight grows film on it by driving through all kinds of weather, like the car headlight, the gift of which we perceive gets covered up by experience. And our ability to see is diminished until we clean the gift of ourselves, right? This is a lifelong process, one that never ends but always begins. So the care of one's being is imperative and continuous, as simple and hard as wiping the residue of experience from your mind and heart and letting your original face again into the light. Through like scratching, though like scratching the middle of your back, we often need each other to regain our sense of oneness. And I really related to that back thing. Does anyone here ever get an itch in their back and they can't really reach it or scratch it? It's like, oh, I wish somebody was around to scratch it for me, like just scratch my back. That's what this community is like. It's here to scratch that itch of spirituality, of feeling alone, of feeling not connected with all that is. Because when we do connect ourselves, when we really wipe those headlights, I didn't even know that headlights did get film on them until my my boyfriend told me, well, your headlights are very dirty. Even though I get my car, you have to wipe them. I didn't know that. Well, we don't know that about our life. All those experiences that have covered up the beauty, the gift of who we are. We have to keep clearing them away and keep wiping them and let them shine out for the whole world to see. And it's true. It really is true. And that's what we're here for as a community. And I remember teaching a class called Roots. Raise your hand if you took that class. Yeah, I haven't taught it for a long time. It's a great class, but a lot of people didn't like it. But it was our practitioners in training and our ministry seminary have taken that class, Roots. And what that does is it gets us back into alignment with the absolute roots of this spirituality, of science of mind, of new thought. And we study Emerson, Thomas Troward, and Emma Curtis Hopkins in that. And that was a lot of years ago, the last time I taught that, but I still remember something that stayed with me. A couple of passages from Emma Curtis Hopkins that they really grabbed me, and I remember them. Not verbatim, so I'm reading it. But just listen to this, what she says. And it goes with Naples and Holmes's reading that I just read before. This is in the Scientific Christian Mental Practice that she wrote. She writes this. This is over 100 years ago. You may often wonder why the truth student, that would be all of us, we're truth students, who claim to believe the doctrine of no sin, no sickness, no death, in other words, no separation, does not immediately show peaceful, satisfied conditions. Suppose, now this is a good example. Suppose the rain and dust had beaten against the plate glass windows until they are very dirty. And you think the mere cessation of rain and dust will make the window panes clean? So it is with our mind that is covered with years of habitual imaginations and thoughts. It ceases from imaginations, but practical daily washings of the dust of years must be made. This does not make the mistaken belief about life a reality, but explains how real these imaginations seem to us. How real they seem to us. So for us to really deepen into the truth of our being, we got to keep working on ourselves. We got to keep cleaning. We got to keep wiping away all of the stuff that's been poured upon us. And I know how real situations can feel. We've all been in them, haven't we? If you're alive, you've been in conditions. You've been in situations where you don't even know where they came from, and they're painful. They're challenging. But still, we have to keep cleaning. At the same time, remember that water ski, that jet ski. As the water is in that wake, that calmness is right there in the middle. That's your divinity. That's the divine self. Meister Eckhart, German mystic from the 1200s, he proclaimed this: spiritual life is not a process of addition, but rather of subtraction. You might have heard that before. I love that. Taking away, we keep piling stuff on, like we're gonna be so involved, we're gonna be so enlightened. I'll just take another class, I'll go to another lecture, I'll hear something else without doing the work that it takes. So maybe it's less of things, not more inundated. We got to deepen into. This is awakening. So we got to deepen into the truth of who we are and really connect with it, because it is pure love. That's the truth. And here's another one by Osho. He was an Indian mystic, guru, and spiritual teacher, and he said this: drop the idea of becoming someone, because you are already a masterpiece. You cannot be improved. You have only to come to it, to know it, and to realize it. That's so powerful to me. You are already a masterpiece. But we don't acknowledge that. We find fault with who we are and who everyone else is. So perhaps your life would look so much different if you really believed that you're a masterpiece created out of the image of divinity, because divinity is light. Divinity is energy. Divinity is all the good that could possibly be. There is nothing to oppose the nature of God itself. And we're calling it God because we're in this human realm and language is language. But it's so much more than we could ever comprehend. Everybody with me? Yes. Okay, good. So we got a little story to bring this along. There was a little boy who heard a lot about God in his Sunday school class. And so he decided he wanted to meet God. And so one day he packed up a little bag with the two most important things for his journey to meet God: some Twinkies and 2 root beers. Okay, so that's a while ago. I mean, I used to like Twinkies when I was 13 to 15. I love them, in fact. But now we're going to have carrots and juice, all right. So the little boy had organic fruit juice and carrots, and he ran away because said no child ever. This is what I'm taking, right? Okay, so he didn't run away. He's going to meet God. He walked about 3 blocks to a park, and he thought, well, maybe I'll find God here. He looked around, and there was only one person sitting on a bench, an elderly lady, just sitting there. So he went over, and he sat down next to her on the other side of the park bench. He waited for a while, and she was just looking at the birds and the squirrels. They didn't exchange a word. Pretty soon, he opened up his bag, and he started eating one of his carrots. And then he thought, I'll offer one to this lady. So he gave her. Without a word, he pulled out a carrot, and she started eating the carrot with him. She smiled at him so sweetly, big smile. A little later, he decided to have another carrot, so again he handed her another one, which she took with a big smile once again. And then he opened his juice box and decided maybe she's thirsty too, so he gave her the other one. Again, with a big smile, she took it, and then just sat there for 3 hours, eating carrots and drinking the juice. Every so often, the squirrels and the birds would come by, and they would feed them. Eventually, it started to get dark. So the little boy gathered up things and began to walk away. And suddenly turned back on impulse and gave her a big hug. And she gave him a big hug right back and flashed him this huge, big smile. And he went home. There never had been a word exchanged between the boy and the woman. When the little boy got home, his mother said to him, so where have you been today? And he said, well, I went to the park, and I met God. And you know what? She's got a great smile. And about the same time, the elderly woman entered her home where she lived with her adult son. And he said, Mom, you were gone a really long time, but you look so radiant. What happened? And she said, I was in the park today, and I met God. And you know what? He's a lot younger than I really would have thought he would be. That story is the as-me consciousness. That story, you don't need, there's such a block in words and language. There's such a limitation to words that we go beyond that to the feeling state, as me, God as me, divinity as me. As me, you feel it. You feel the love. You feel the joy. No one can give it to you. It must come from within you. Well, where is it coming from? It's coming from your divine self, as me consciousness. So, my friends, how about you? Are you ready? Are you ready to awaken to your divine nature within? Yeah. Anyone? Yeah. Okay, I see a few hands. Pumped. Okay. One of the sacred practices that we do here is visioning. And we're going to do a little visioning right now. Not a big long one, because they can last long. But these are now, within your bulletin, there's a piece of blank paper. Now, if you need a pen Just raise your hand, and the ushers have pens that they will give you. So, yeah. So you're going to get that, and I'm going to give you the question that we're going to vision on.
This was on the floor.
Thank you.
All right, as they give out the pens, I'm going to go over all these questions, and then I'll repeat the main one again. Because the main question is, what would 2019 look like if you were fully awake and present for it all? Okay, what would 2019 be like if you were fully awake and present for all of it? And that means, and I'm going to go through what it means. This means fully awake and present to the life you now have. Fully awake and present to who you are in every moment. Fully awake and present to what brings you joy here and now. Fully awake and present to the life you are creating with every thought, with every word, with every feeling. And fully awake to the presence of God's grace in your life. And fully awake when the wakes come up. When all that stuff comes up, you stay in that awakened state. So, the question is, I think nearly everyone has pens, what would 2019 be like if you were fully awake and present for you? So just take that in for a minute. I'm going to ask 3 questions. What qualities of God would you embody if you lived this vision? Now remember that we describe God, the divine, as joy, as love, as peace, as infinite potential, as wholeness, as grace. These are some of the qualities that we have given the divine. So the question is, what qualities of God would you embody and express if you lived your vision for this year, fully awakened? What is the quality that you would like to experience? And then the next question is, what needs to be released so that you can? What is blocking the way? What do you need to release so you can live this vision? You can experience this vision. It could be fear, it could be doubt, lack and limitation, many things. So what do you need to release so that you could live this vision? And then the third question is there anything else I need to know? Is there anything else I need to know? And just let it free flow through you. It could be pictures even. Nothing might come through now, and it might days from now. Visioning is very, very powerful. So is there anything else that I need to know? And so you can continue this process at home. And by the way, you can, this is the quickest version I have, you can ask any question as the purpose statement. It could be, what is my divine job? How do I make this decision? It could be anything. And then just ask, what do I need to release? What do I need to embrace? And I always like, is there anything else that needs to come through? Because that's when I get something, whoa, I know it's coming from the divinity, because it's not in my mind, so it comes through. So I'd like you to hold those papers in your hand. And just know that this is your vision for 2019, part of it anyway, to awaken to the infinite potential that's available to each and every one of us. And as you do that, I invite you to close your eyes, and I'm just going to do what we call affirmative prayer spiritual mind treatment for the manifestation of each and every one's purpose that they just wrote down. So just take that deep breath. And move into the space where infinite potential is always available. This pristine present moment where anything and everything we can imagine can manifest in our lives. Be it peace, be it loving relationship, be it healing of the physical, mental, emotional body, whatever it is. Prosperity, fill up those bank accounts. Just see it done. Because I know there is a power for good that is forever expressing and extending itself into all of life. The creative genius that has created all that is, was, and ever shall be. There can be nothing else, nothing to oppose the good of this divine self, this creative energy, this flow of life, this infinite potential that knows no limitation, no lack, no anger, no doubt, no fear, none of that stuff. It only knows to love that which it creates. And so I anchor myself into that space, that field, where I know I am one with this divinity. I am one with this love, with this peace, with this wholeness, with this prosperity and goodness. I am one with it. And I know that for each and every person here, that each one has been and will always be connected to this oneness of life. Everyone is a part of this infinite love that is God itself. There is no separation. And as we have our eyes closed, we can get the sense of no separation. Because when the eyes are closed, when we shut that sense off, we don't see separateness. But we can feel oneness. We can feel oneness. And so I declare that each one's statement that they have written down in this visioning is coming to the most perfect manifestation in their lives. That each one is moving to a place of wholeness, where there is nothing missing, of love, where there is peace and harmony in the heart, of the fullness of God that does not recognize doubt, does not recognize lack. This is the self that guides us, that empowers us, that we are fully awakening to. So I declare right here, right now, that each one is awakening to that awareness. Each one is moving in the direction that serves their highest good. And I am so grateful to know that. I am so grateful to speak this word, and knowing that the law of cause and effect is always in operation, that this is cause, and this cause must bring about the most perfect effect in each one's life. And so I am deeply grateful to know that, and to state that, and to claim that as truth. And I release this word in all the fullness that it has been spoken and felt, into that powerful law of infinite mind that takes this word and brings about the most beautiful manifestations in each and every person's life. Right here, right now, I claim that as truth, and so it is. And so it is.